Hey, what's up everyone? Today I want to talk to you about all the settings that you should use, whether it's hotkeys, your mouse DPI, keyboard rate, health bars and so on. So let's delve into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the health bars. As you can see on the screen, all the health bars are showed fully, whether the unit is damaged or not. I purposefully used the probe to hit an SCV. When a SCV has been hit by a probe, you can 2-shot SCV instead of 3-shot. Guess which one is damaged? It's pretty hard to tell, right? So it's the first one towards the left, but it's very difficult to tell. With oracles and adepts, you will 2-shot marines and SCVs if they've been hurt before, especially by a probe. But if they're not damaged, they will get 3-shot. So it's very important to tell instantly which one you need to target. But when you have this setting on, the health bars always on, it's very hard to tell like instantly, especially if you're a bit overwhelmed and stressed out, it's very difficult to tell. Now, if you look at this other setting that I'll show you right now, you will see the difference. Now, let's have a look at this clip. So I have 2 adepts. 2 adepts will 1 volley a marine that's been damaged, or 2 volley a marine or SCV that has not been damaged. So here I arrive with my adepts, and instantly I can tell the one that is damaged is the one on the right. So I will 2-shot it, with my adepts. The one on the left will require 1 more shot. So by seeing this with the damaged health bars, I can immediately see which one I need to target first, and thus kill it, first, and not waste time and be more optimal with my units. Now I have an oracle inbound towards the main, and I also purposefully damaged a couple of SCVs, and you can see the moment your oracle arrives to the Terran base, it's much easier to tell which one has been damaged. Because if you use damage health bars, here immediately you see all the full HP SCVs will have just nothing above them. But you can clearly tell the 3 SCVs that have health bars shown are the ones I will target because they will be 2-shotted. And immediately I can spot this one towards the left, the one in the gas, and the other SCV towards the gas. It makes reading the fights and reading the mirror line much easier. So I would strongly encourage you, instead of using always, you use damage. It's much better in my opinion. A lot of players still use always, which I see no benefit to this. It also floods your screen a little bit more. You have so much information, more colors. I think it makes the game much clearer if you use damaged. Now the following setting is not used by many people, but if you're using this, please get rid of it. It's just unbelievably bad. It's display team colored live bar. When you do this, the health bar of your unit will remain the same all the time. So I'm blue, my health bar will just remain blue. So you don't have like the color going from green all the way to red as the hit points get lower and lower. So it's much harder to read as well. In a big fight and so on, you can see it remains blue. While if I turn it off, then immediately you can see the HP will turn red, making it much easier to read. And in big fights like this, when you have so many different things to manage, it's much more visible to have health bars turn slowly from green to yellow to red rather than having something stay blue. So the next thing I want to talk about is your mouse and all the settings that go with it. So personally, I'm not sponsored by them, but I'm using this mouse, so Razer Orochi. So it's very small. I like small mice in general, so very comfortable. It's wireless as well, which makes controlling easier. If you do not use a wireless mouse, I advise you to use one of these. So it's a mouse bungee, as you can see. It will hold your cord in place, right? It was gifted by a friend of mine from Portugal. Fabio, if you're watching this. And so about the settings. If you go in-game, I advise you to go in mouse and keyboard. Remove this, enable mouse sensitivity. I would strongly encourage you to remove this, and we will do something with the software I'll show you after. Remove enable mouse wheel, which means like you can scroll and zoom in and out. Usually it makes things a bit harder if you misclick and so on. You click this, reduce mouse lag. So that's about it for in-game settings, pretty straightforward. But when it comes to the in-game, then I will show you this setting. So this is the Razer signups. So every company, whether it's Logitech or whatever, will have the equivalent. So I use 700 DPI. Usually most pro players use pretty low DPI. So by removing the DPI and the sensitivity, inside Starcraft 2, you only rely on the sensitivity of your software, which means you will have exactly the same speed in Starcraft 2 or on your desktop and whatever, which means you can get used to it and you don't need to switch from one sensitivity to the other, making things much simpler when you actually play the game. 700 DPI is pretty low, I would say. Some players go even lower, 600 and so on, but if you want good control, if you want to micro properly, I strongly encourage you to have low DPI. I see players, like sometimes I go to people's houses and they have insane DPI, like how can you even control anything with this? So Parting, Maru, Hero, all these players, I mean every pro gamer at this point, have pretty low sensitivity. So if you have trouble controlling your army and microing, try reducing a little bit your DPI bit by bit to go maybe all the way to maybe 800 or even below if you can, and you will see your accuracy will improve dramatically. And the last thing I want to talk about regarding your mouse is this setting. So I apologize for the French, but this one over here says enhance the precision of your pointer. You want this to be switched off, because if it's switched on, what happens is as I cross my screen, the speed of the cursor increases, and obviously you don't want that. This is on by default on Windows. You need to turn it off, because by switching it off, the speed of your cursor on your screen will remain the same all the time. This is what we want. If you want to be precise and accurate, if the speed increases as you move, well, it makes being precise harder. So switch it off, it will make your life much easier. And if you just apply this little tricks for your mouse, just this will already improve your microing control by quite a bit, I can tell you that much. The next thing I want to show you is rapid fire settings. So most of you have probably heard of it, or maybe you're already using it, but for those who are not aware of what it is, rapid fire allows you to basically warp in units without clicking. So here I'm playing the Z button once to make a zealot, and I'm not even clicking, and this is what happens. And I can just make instantly infinite amount of units by not even clicking. This will make warping in much faster. And it works with every unit, you know, DTs, whatever. I can choose what units I want to make, and I will show you how to do it. If I just click manually, this is what it looks like, right? It's so slow. If I can just do it like this without clicking, it makes my life so much easier. It will increase your APM too, because, well, the less time you spend warping in your units, the more time you have doing other stuff. So how do you do it? Options, hotkeys, global, and then you go into unit management. You scroll down a little bit, and this one is choose ability or AI target. So by default, this is your left mouse button, because this is basically executing an action. And then you can only add one button. So you have more here, but I'll show you how to do it. So Z is basically my zealot button. So you just add a second one. You click here, press Z, and then you click accept, right? I click no because I've already done that, but okay. And then once it's done, let's see how to do it outside of Starcraft 2. Okay, so now you can make zealots super rapidly, but how can you warp in adepts, stalkers, DTs and so on also super rapidly? Because we only added the Z button, right? Well, I'm gonna show you how to do it. So you go into your documents, wherever your Starcraft 2 folder is, Starcraft 2, then accounts. Well, I have several accounts, but if you only have one, it's gonna be straightforward. Then you add them here. This is a bit messy, but all you have to do is to go into the hotkeys folder. Then you right click it and open with Notepad, right? So open with Notepad and this will show up. Now, this is a bit, of course, like Chinese, but you scroll down a little bit and you have this one. Target, choose left mouse button. And by default, so I have my Z here. So then you go comma, H, comma, S, basically whatever your hotkeys are for your gateway units. For me, Z is Zealot, H Adept, S Stalker. Just add a comma in between each of these and add as many as you can. If you play Zerg or you want to have abilities on Rapid Fire, Corrosive Bile, Spreading Creep, you can also add these letters over here. For example, I have Q. Q is the Mind button, and you often see pro players use their probes to harass behind the minerals. You know, they prevent the drones from mining properly, right? Well, by having the mine button on rapid fire, I don't need to click, 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 click. I can just press Q and the probe will instantly, massively click forever without me having to produce any effort. So then do whatever you like to your liking, but this is how you add rapid fire to units and abilities. So now that you've set up which units you can warp in instantly and what abilities you can spam super rapidly without clicking, here comes the question: how fast the delay will be, how fast can I warp in? Well, two things to do. The first one, this is property keyboard, so you go to this little setting, and this is delay before repetition. This is long, this is short, go all the way to short. I don't know how can I translate this, but basically the speed at which the repeat rate, repeat rate, go to fast, and then apply and then just leave. And this one is the most important, so you need to go into the console basically. So you press Windows and R, then you type regedit, and then you end up here. So in regedit, you go to H key, current user, control panel, accessibility, and keyboard response. So this is the settings I'm using. Flags should always be 59. Don't ask me why, this is 59. Don't ask questions. I don't have the answers. Then delay before acceptance is 0 as well. Bounce time is 0. The three last ones should always be 0059. Then the two first ones, pretty much up to you. So auto repeat rate 4. If you go lower than this, it will repeat the rate at an insane speed. So I don't recommend to go too low here, but some people do, so as you wish, do whatever feels comfortable. Auto repeat delay, I have 175, some people have 200, some have 250, some have 150. Use whatever feels comfortable. Just know that whenever you've registered all of these values, you need to restart your computer. So if you go too low, you will struggle to even type your own password because the repeat rate will be instantaneous basically. So take it one step at a time. I think 175 and 4 is pretty safe, and it will make you able to warp in just like that, forever and ever, and it will really make your life easier. So implement that into your play. So I'd like to talk a little bit about hotkeys, but before I do, I want to remind you guys you can join my Discord in the description below, where I do coaching. I will watch your replays, analyze, give you all my tips I can possibly give you. And also I want to tell you that on Sunday at 6 p.m. Central European time, I will be doing a grouped coaching session, so it's open to everyone. So if you want to join, please come in, you're very welcome. So regarding hotkeys, the first thing is there are three types of hotkey setups. So the default one that most people use, where you have hotkeys all over the place basically, and the hotkey for a given spell is often the first letter of its name, like for example G for Guardian Shield or B for Blink. Then you have grid, where all the commands are on the right side and are lined up with your keyboard, so basically QWERTY and so on for the English layout, or AZERTY or QWERTZ, whatever keyboard you're using. And there's also the core, which is less known, but it's basically a setup which uses the middle of your keyboard, where around like the space bar, backspace, and so on. Some people play it, like the Australian player Probe, and Showtime actually uses that. So feel free to use whatever you like most. I don't think there's an optimal way to do things, but Starcraft requires a lot of muscle memory. So if you're used to a setup, like the default one, for example, I would say stick to it. But my only advice is to change whatever hotkey you deem is not optimal. So I usually put my disruptors in control grip 3, but the Nova button by default is V. So it's quite far away from the keyboard, especially when you want to react quickly. So what I did in game, I went to the disruptor and I changed from V to E. So if you look at your keyboard, E is just below the 3 button. So for me, doing 3E, 3E is much easier than going 3V all the way down to the keyboard. So, I didn't change many things, but that's the kind of things you want to change. For Zerg players, it's commonly recommended to use like 2 different hotkeys for borrow and unborrow to not mess things up. Also change your baning detonation hotkey to whatever key is available that doesn't do anything else. Because if your baning explosion button is the same as the whatever like Viper spell and such, you could accidentally detonate all your banelings at once. So use a hotkey that only has this single purpose, so you don't blow up your army randomly. And for Terran players, you can use 2 different hotkeys for landing and lifting your buildings. This will avoid accidentally lifting all your command centers at once when you're just trying to land one on location. So these kind of things can happen. Aside from that, use whatever hotkeys you feel comfortable with, and just remember, StarCraft 2 is a lot about muscle memory. If something doesn't feel comfortable, change to something that is, more intuitive to you. Other than that, just stick to whatever works, don't make things overly complicated. Now, this is my setup, so you can get inspired by it, hopefully. So yeah, red switches, as you can see. Then my monitor, as you will see, is pushed all the way to the end of my desk. A lot of players play with their monitor, I think, way too close. That's a mistake, because it makes seeing things actually harder. This is counterintuitive, but you can see, so the phone now is pretty much at my side. So this is a 24-inch monitor, which is the default size at every tournament for the most part. But if your monitor is further away, you can actually get a grip of what's going on in a much easier manner. Here I can see the minimap super easily, as opposed to if your monitor is too big or too close to you, you need more head movements to actually see what's going on. So 24 inches monitor, and you put it at the very end of your desk, unless your desk is massive, but I don't think it is, and you can actually have a better picture of what's going on. So I strongly recommend you use a setup close to this one. Then you use a mousepad that feels, comfortable. You can move freely left, right, without struggling. And then you use a keyboard position that basically doesn't hurt your wrist, because I used to have wrist issues back in the days. Having a chair that's high enough and a keyboard that's positioned in such a way that no longer hurts my wrist, so that's pretty nice. And then about the mouse, I think I talked about it earlier. I think having a wireless mouse makes your life easier. If you have a wired mouse, just use a mouse bungee so you can have a reliable movement and not have your cable stuck somewhere and mess up your micro.